Listen up, Rangers. Welcome to the Geek Chest. My name's Steve, and today in this Stevie's custom monstrosity video, I need to pick him up. Oh, actually, totally forgot about his freaking wig. All right, we got his wig. But anyways, again, today in this Stevie's custom monstrosity video, we have a little puppet guy I've been working on for a little bit now. He's finally wrapped up. What we have here is the bald Crite from Critters 2. Is what I based this one off of. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to be showing you kind of photos and some stuff from the process of working on this guy, because it was like on and off for a couple weeks. I was messing around with getting this guy done. A little bit of trial and error here and there. So you can kind of see current finished product. And kind of way I did things I really liked about this project, things that maybe would have changed a little bit in hindsight, because this is my first time messing around with latex for the most part, like really hard. The closest thing I've done to this is I did a what I call an Otaku Jason costume for Youmacon, which is like an anime convention over in Detroit. I had a trench coat that I put a Jason mask on the back, and then I made it look like it was fusing into the back. So it was just foam and latex, sort of like this. Sadly, it's kind of deteriorated now because it's cheap latex I use. This stuff I use a little bit better thing, so hopefully it'll last for a while. But anyways, first and foremost, the main reason I wanted to do this project was because I love Critters. They were like, growing up, they're like one of my favorite horror movies. Like, I like the Critters almost on a part, if not honestly, probably a little more than Gremlins. I know it's probably a little bit blasphemy, but I just always thought they were so cool. They were just like tiny, and they were terrifying, and then they get bigger, and they just want to eat, and they were just like they were very unique looking. And I've always kind of wanted some kind of collectibles to go along with it, but there's like nobody does Critters. No one. In an official capacity, anyways. There's like the Mexican bootleg little ones. We've done one on the channel before. There's a few other artists that make them, which I do like them, but I really wanted something like I wanted a full body puppet. So figure I'd try doing it myself. So first things first with this guy, I did this entire thing out of upholstery foam, which you can pick up like a Hobby Lobby. It's like, or I think I got the foam originally. If you guys remember from a live stream from years ago, I made a tofu specifically for the live stream for Resident Evil 2. And then I was planning on using it for conventions. I worked on it more, and then Casey happened and other stuff, and just never really got around to it. So tofu's just been hanging out in my basement for a few years. Our old dog Shinji peed on it once, so it had some stains on it, and I was going to have to clean on it, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to repurpose the foam, start trying to make other projects. So this is the technically second thing I started working with it. I started doing a Godzilla puppet, which we're going to hopefully get back to here after this guy. But anyways, so I took upholstery foam, I layered the upholstery, actually, getting ahead of myself. First, I found pictures of the actual puppet from Critters 2. I'll put a link in the description if I can figure out who it was. But I found images of it online, so I kind of figured how tall I wanted it to be. So I took measurements of spacing from the puppet slash animatronic that they had. Took measurements from that and just kind of scaled it to the size that I needed it. That's kind of how I figured out roughly its dimensions. It's not perfect, but it's the easiest way for me to go about it. Because again, I took a few liberties with this one because I want, again, be kind of like more of a functional puppet than like a full accurate maquette. So I did that, and then so with that, I knew how big of the dimension I needed for the biggest portion of it, which is the mouth to the back of the head. And I got the rough shape of that, cut that out, and then I layered the foam in decreasing sizes up and down. And then from there, I took some scissors and a giant hobby knife and cut it to shape. got it to the rough shape I needed, cut it out the mouth, cut out the eyes, got everything kind of attached, used some spray glue, some hot glue here and there to get the rough shape of it. And then after that, I took some cotton fabric, wrapped the entire thing in the cotton fabric, using spray glue to kind of adhere it to the fabric. Got it as tight as I can, not perfectly, but it doesn't need to be perfect, because for the basis of this thing, we're going to be covering this, like a majority of this in your fur anyway, so if there's some wrinkles here and there in the fabric, you're not going to see it. Same with parts of the head. We're going to be putting quite a few layers of latex over it, so that'll also kind of hide any of the seams, was my thought process behind that. So I cover this guy in fabric, and then after that, now I'm trying to remember exactly how I did this in order. I started working on the arms, which my first pass wasn't great. I used sculpting Ava foam, which is like a squishy, almost kind of like Play-Doh. When it hardens in the Ava foam. I used that to make the hands. Didn't like them. Ordered some new stuff. Redid these. The arms and the hands on this guy, which I'll go over a little bit more in depth here in a few. And then took that stuff, covered it in latex. Only did a couple layers of latex by themselves, attached it to the body, and then applied more layers. I think overall, I have 4 layers of latex on the limbs, on the arms and the legs. I did one thick pass of latex mixed with baby powder to kind of thicken it up. Did a pass over that, so that's how it also got the bumpy textures in the legs. But with the Ava foam, I had to sculpt it too, which is kind of interesting. Also, the Ava foam I bought really didn't want to cure. The outside cure, the inside, it was like 4 days, nothing. So I had to core it out and then stuff the arms with more scrap of upholstery foam when I reattached it. And then after that was detailing the face, which its face is done with latex and cotton balls. So you would take a little bit of the cotton balls, dip them in latex, kind of roll it into shapes. And after dipping it, you can adhere it to the face here. And then once you get enough of it on, you can actually sort of sculpt it. So I was taking a sculpting tool to add all the wrinkling details. And then same with trying to get some of the shaping down for his eyebrows, which you can kind of see a little better at the top. And it gives them a little bit more of a defined shape. And I really like the way the cotton balls worked with it too, because it gives it a neat little texture to it too, which I really liked. So I did pretty much the entire face, primarily on the cheeks, anywhere you see the wrinkles, the eyebrows, and the lower lip is where I added that. And then the rest of it's just regular foam, regular latex over top of the fabric. The head, I screwed up a little bit. This is one of the things, hindsight, I would do differently, is his head's kind of bumpy. It should be smoother, but I don't hate it, because since we're doing the bald Crite, his hair got shot off anyways, and that would make me think he's kind of got like singed, the skin's kind of burnt a little bit. So if it would have healed, it'd be kind of scabby and bumpy anyways. So that was kind of my thought process there, with his top of his head being a little bit rougher looking. But I did a couple passes of thick latex doing the same thing on that. But my first time mixing it, I used cornstarch, and I didn't sift it very well, which is, it made it, like, again, made it a little clumpier than I wanted to. Baby powder comes out super fine, a lot easier to use. So I did that, and then after that, this is where I kind of got a little sort of excited, is once the face hardened, I did the inside of the mouth, which, getting my hands into here, you can kind of see, I did the same thing on the inside of the mouth, where it's all cotton dipped in latex to get the texturing, but I didn't really do much detailing in the mouth. It was literally just like laying it on the roof of the mouth, getting as smooth as possible, but it'll still have, again, that texture is kind of what I was looking for. So I did that to the top of the mouth, and then the base of the mouth around the teeth. The ton I mostly left alone. I just did that thickening latex over top of it. Give it a nice look. And then the ton here is just, again, layers of latex and a piece of foam. That's it there. With the fabric over top. I just added a piece of foam under the ton. One step I did skip is he is a functional puppet, so he does have a hole in his back. As you can see here. It just goes right up into his core. I kept the fabric loose, so you'll see it's just cut open. So when I pull, and that's mainly so when I pull my arm out, it hides the fabric really, like the hole hides really well, which is what I was aiming for. But I had to cut this part out and then go up into the mouth region here. I carved out the head. That was before I did all the latexing. Same with on the roof of the mouth too. I forgot to mention when I did the mouth before adding the fabric over top of it, I use pieces of cardboard to give it some stability, so I have something my hands can clamp on. You can also use hard plastic. I just kind of use something I had laying around at the time. Again, hindsight, probably would use something a little bit harder, but honestly, the cardboard's doing its job. Because there's enough latex here that it's not really flexing. And then honestly, it also gives me a little bit more play there, but not a ton. So there's that. Also the eyeballs. I had to do the eyeballs before I did all the latex too. Getting super out of order here. But the eyeballs are just wooden balls that I painted and then dipped in, well not dipped, I brushed liquid resin over top of it. Just UV resin, same stuff they use for 3D printing. And then just brush it over the eyes, use the UV light to cure it real quick, clean it up with some alcohol, call it a day. And then it gives it that really nice shine to the eyeballs. So I had to do that, stick the eyeballs in, yada yada yada. And then, after doing all the latex, was one of the fun parts, which was doing all the teeth, which is where I kind of got a little bit ahead of myself, because my thought process was, oh, actually, you know what? I'm a little out of order. When I went to do the bumpy bits, I did that after I put the teeth in. I would recommend doing that. Because I got a little impatient. I really wanted to see this thing with teeth inside of its mouth. So I made and put in all the teeth. And then I realized I still got to stick all that latex in the mouth. So that was a fun task. So latex got over top of the teeth a little bit. And I tried cleaning him up a little bit and then just said screw it and just decided to just make his mouth look gory. So it looks like he's been eating something. Which I think works for the character, thankfully. And I didn't have to clean up all the latex afterwards then. It just looks like he's been mowing on some flesh. So, ran with it. But I would do all the latex, then put the teeth in. And then if you want to put a little bit of latex around the teeth, go for it. But teeth would have been like probably second to last thing I would have done on this thing. Instead of doing it before I did the fur. Same with the fingers. The nails on the critter I also put on afterwards. These are made out of thermoplastic, so it's little plastic beads that you heat up in boiling water, and it'll make them soft, and then you can sculpt with them. That's what all the teeth are in the claws. So he's got a little bit over 200 teeth, and what we got 12 claws. So I had to make a little over 220 individual little pointy bits to add to this guy, which is super fun, but definitely well worth it. I did it with the 3 rows of teeth on the top because that's Critters 2. Well, Critters 2, it looks like they're kind of bunched up if I remember right. Critters 1 and Critters 3, they kind of got that going on. I kind of like that look. But the bottom, I only kept the 2 rows, and then you have the ton there. And then the final thing, which wasn't as bad to do as the teeth, was doing all this fur, which is two different colors of fur, but the one color didn't come out good. It was supposed to be a dark gray, light gray. So the dark gray, I glue it onto this guy. Just using spray glue. You just cut it to shape. And I did this section here. There's also a stripe here. I had to cut out a hole in the fur in order to get the arms through. The legs are all just a bunch of patches of fur. And then to hide all the seams, because when you do the fabric, one thing you want to make sure you're doing is you want to cut from underneath the fur. So you want to use some kind of blade. Cut underneath the fur so it doesn't cut into the fur. So when you're snipping it, because if you go just snip it with a pair of scissors, it'll make it look really uneven. Don't want that. And also because we're trying to hide the seams with the fur, makes it really hard to hide the seams. So I did all that and then had to go through with rubber cement and do little sections at a time of just applying rubber cement, snipping some extra fur that I had, sticking it on, and then doing that all along the back of the head, all along pretty much the entirety of the tummy going down, because this is a full patch of fur here. This is a full patch of fur, so I had to hide all that. I had to hide the seams around his groin region. And then also his chin is all done with rubber cement and fur. And then the patches on his tummy, so you can still see a little bit of the skin, but because for critters, they're not fully furred here. You can still generally see, depending on the critter, you can see more or less depending. But predominantly, they got the little beard thing going on. So I did his beard, got it glued in, and then I took some watered down acrylic light gray paint and just brushed it into his fur. And then just with the hair dryer, heat it up, dry it off, do it again. And that helped to brighten up his chin region. And I think that's about it for this guy. Overall, super fun little project. I got to figure out what I'm doing with this guy for the channel here. He's got to have something going on with this. Not 100%. Maybe I'll get some food or something similar. He can maybe do like food tastings on the channel or something. Maybe he can eat other toys. Like how delicious is Chainsaw Man. Well done, dude. And thankfully the teeth actually stand really well, so you can bite things. The only thing I have to worry about is him like eating things that are messy, because I don't want to clean it up. I don't. Trying to clean up this fur would be a nightmare. But yeah, super sweet. I'm not sure if I'm going to make more like him. I kind of want to maybe make one more puppet, because I would like to do the scarred one from Critters 3, I think would be kind of cool. If I do any more of these guys, though, more than likely I'll probably just be sculpting, and it'll probably be like sculpt, 3D print, put the fur on the 3D print, make them statues. This is probably going to be the one and done. Oh, and actually, I grabbed it too. Because one thing I did with this fur is he actually has a bunch of Axe hair shaping gel in his fur. And that's just to give him that rough texture to the fur. Because otherwise it kind of lays down the way the fur was kind of set up. It just wanted to go flat. And I really wanted it to be kind of like jagged and all over the place. And then he has a little wig for his gimmick. So if I want to do him not as the bald Crite, oh, my voice is cracking. He has a wig. And the wig, there's actually a little magnet here, and you'll see there's a piece of string. He does have a magnet inside of his head. It's right there. It's the only hard spot at the top of his head, which I did after the fact. Again, hindsight 2020. I should have done the magnet, then did the latex. So I had to cut into the head, stick the magnet in there, and then go back over a little bit of latex. But with the magnet, helps keep this in place. My wig isn't the best, I'll be honest. It's good enough for me, but it sits on the top of the head decently well. You can see there's a separation there, but it's just gonna be there no matter what I do. But it looks pretty solid. Bitchin'. And then if I want to do the gimmicks, so say, I don't know why, I just thought it cool to have a gimmick. It's not like I'm going to be using it that often, but thought it'd be sweet. But because he has the piece of string there, I can... Ah! It looks like it's gone. But anyway, super bitchin'. Probably one of my favorite little guys I've worked on, to be honest. Think of all the custom things I've done. This guy is easily probably the coolest thing. The only thing I would say is definitely not accurate with this guy is I think the spacing between the eyes is maybe a little too wide. I like it. The way I measured it out is the one that they fixed up, it seemed kind of wider, but when you're watching the movie, it seems closer depending on the critter. And then technically his arm shouldn't just be glued here. It should be like a full arm. So like his shoulder probably would be more in line with here, and then he'd have like an elbow bend. But because I wanted to keep him like a puppet, I didn't want like arms flailing around and stuff. So I just kept it like short and sweet to get him to work good. But anyways, I'm debating on maybe making these to sell. Like if somebody like would want a custom one done, you could message me on the Etsy, link in the description. I don't think I'm going to put them up officially, but if you watch this video and you're like, hey, you can contact me on there. I have no idea what I would charge for something like this. Because I know I got at least like $100-ish in materials, and it was a couple of weeks, so take that into consideration. If you're going to mess with me, he's not going to be cheap. But still, super fun. More than likely, I'd probably do them with hair. Because one thing I found out after the fact is they're actually done with, it's, what, moose hide? Moose fur? Is what they use for the fur in the movie. I did not do that. It was some fur I got off Amazon, which worked out really well. I think anyways. It can maybe be a little bit bigger. The only thing is like the hair on the top of the head, I think is the only real minor nitpick I would have is it should probably be a little bit bigger and more bowing over to the back. But still think it's pretty serviceable on this guy. But anyways, you can help us do the kaijus by hitting that like button, subscribe, become a ranger today. We'll also got Instagram, Patreon, TikTok, Facebook. Guys, like people that do what you know, donate. Greatly would appreciate it. Again, if you guys would be interested in possibly getting a critter for yourself, let me know in the comment section below if you guys would be interested in seeing more stuff like this. Because I definitely wouldn't mind doing it. He was also a part of a few live streams. So again, if you guys would like to see progress done on this guy, he popped up periodically just to kind of show some of the work. Because this is the first one I've ever done, I didn't really do much filming for the process. Because, well, again, trial and error stuff. But anyways, see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.